So we're now looking at the assignments for this section. And in your packet, you have a series of video clips, which I have just taken screenshots from, which are from MOOCs, massive online courses that were developed by a series of universities in the last 5 years. And they illustrate the best examples that I can find of video lecturing at these 4 different levels. Now, we're only going to be addressing 3 levels today: level 1, level 1.5, level 2. And this is how we're assessing videos for our organization, Kairos College and New Hope Christian Schools International. So starting off, we have our first video clip, and this is from a professor in at Notre Dame. And he's lecturing on Jesus and the scriptures. Now, you can see in the screenshot that there's a lot of distracting information behind the professor. You see his robes from his doctorate. You'll see a cross in the corner over his shoulder, and the books that he's in, and the fluorescent lighting above his head. And the camera angle is looking up at him. Okay, he's looking into the camera, he's presenting himself well, the lighting as well, but there's this distracting information that doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't promote any level of comprehension of the material. Now, that's what we call extraneous information. Now, our next slide is the same professor, and in the same lecture from Notre Dame, and he's lecturing on Jesus in Scripture and tradition. But in this case, he's got the background of a stained glass window. And you see in that stained glass window the issues that it isn't really extraneous. It has something to do with what he's talking about, at least it's Jesus. But you're kind of going like, what's going on? Where are you? Maybe you're in a chapel. And it doesn't add anything. And it doesn't really take away, but it doesn't add. It has an aesthetic value, but it doesn't really add to where the mind is going. And we continue on. We'll see a couple more examples here. Same professor. Now, he goes into a dialogical setting where he's discussing how you go through the scriptures with a rector of a diocese. And they're Catholics. And you can tell from the collar, obviously, for the rector. And in that situation, it is engaging because of the dialogue. And our minds are engaged because there's a very human, normal thing. This is how we experience life, right? We experience listening to people talk, and that engagement you'll find is very kind of pleasing. There isn't a lot of extraneous information going on, and it's a very pleasant kind of experience. Now, I find this kind of dialogical format to be preferable to the direct form of lecture, which I'm giving, for example, now to you. The dialogical format is just more pleasing, I would say, and it stimulates the mind in a way because it's normal voice inflection, something we're familiar with, and it stimulates the mind in a good way. This I give a 1.5 to. It's a good form, so it's a level 1.5. As we continue on, we come to an example with the same professor where he's concluding his lecture, and he's doing it in front of an altar. Now, here you have some interesting plays going on because the background is engaging, and it's also like, well, it's appropriate, right? But he's talking about the matter, concluding Jesus in the scriptures, and talking in front of an altar. So it actually gives you some additional information. It doesn't take you away. It's not extraneous. I would call this a 1.5 version, similar to the stained glass, but a little bit more aesthetically. I don't want to say aesthetically pleasing, but a little bit more content oriented. It makes sense. You're in front of an altar for what he's lecturing on. Now, as we continue to go through the snapshots, we come to what I would call 1.75. And here we're really beginning to master the craft of video lectures. What we have is a woman who is talking about Christianity through the scriptures. She's doing this at Harvard. And what you have in the background is lettering from the Hebrew scriptures. And it's a very soft kind of background. The lighting is very clearly done on her in a manner that she draws you in. She's a fairly good lecturer, and you have a setting where you don't have extraneous information, but the information that is being given to you actually stimulates the mind towards the subject that's being addressed, which is scripture. So she does a really excellent job here. And so this is a level 1.5. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. Now, what they do in this Harvard lecture series, as you'll see, is now they have another screenshot of her, and it's from a different angle. And that produces an effect that is actually pleasing to have another angle on her face, a takeaway shot on her face. That's representing a level 2.0 where you're changing the facial angle of the video. You're changing the distance a little bit, and it adds a little bit of variety that keeps the mind stimulated. That's the 2.0 version. Thank you so much for going through this with me. In the assignment, I want you to go through each one of these and notate why you like or dislike the background and setting for each one of the video clips. Okay? Thank you, and look forward to our next round.